Listen!
Ladies and gentlemen, after the now traditional technical difficulties, welcome to the final episode in this series of the Polis Box Live. Now, thank you. Now, before we start tonight's show, I'd like to, if I may, make a serious point. Since our move to live episodes on YouTube, it's been suggested in certain quarters that the Polis Box is somewhat flippant when compared to other Doctor Who podcasts that favour a more analytical approach to the subject matter. Now, I for one, and I'm sure I speak for all of us present here tonight when I say this, is that is not the case in the slightest. In fact, over the course of this last week, despite being under the weather, I have been given the subject of tonight's case, the Time Monster, the rigorous examination it requires ahead of going before the court tonight, when the easiest thing for me to do would have been to retreat to the couch, put on some nice, cosy, comfort Doctor Who, and continue to battle the heavy cold that I'd been suffering. Talking of which, I'm joined as ever by two men who are no strangers to working their way through an entire box of Kleenex in front of episode 1 of Planet of Fire. It's Cameron Phillips and David Cummings.
Hello.
Good evening.
Let's start this classiest of all analytical Doctor Who podcasts with a good old wank joke, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, why not? It's what we're known for. Is that an electric pubes?
It's like Strangers in Space, isn't it? It's just like...
Yeah.
Almost identical. Almost identical.
Great.
Well, joining us tonight to bring the class levels up a notch. We're joined tonight by podcast host, Emmy Award winner, author of this very book, Downtime, the Lost Years of Doctor Who, Emmy Award winner, close personal pal of David Bradley, Emmy Award winner, and all-round good guy. By the way, did we mention he's won a fucking Emmy? It's the one, the only, from Too Hot from TV, Dylan Rees.
Hello. Well, how do I follow an introduction like that? Just see, on the Strangers in Space podcast, obviously, there is some deep analytical stuff that happens, but they bring in me and occasionally Mark Donaldson to bring the tone down. So we're all in good company here, I think, tonight.
We're definitely a good company. I should point out to anybody else watching this tonight that's going to be on in future, the minimum entry level requirement for the Post Box now is a BAFTA. Okay? Just putting it out there.
So Noel Clark can come on.
When I say anybody.
Hey, if he wants to come on, you can't stop him.
Allegedly. No, actually, not even allegedly. So anyway, welcome all to the final episode of this series of the Polis Box. We are going to be putting the Time Monster on trial. If you haven't been with us over the last few weeks, let's start off by recapping the scores of the series so far. So, we've been covering Series 9 of Doctor Who. Dave the Daleks went on trial first with a guilty verdict of 14% to 86% not guilty. Curse of Peladon was found 82% not guilty. Sea Devils was found 87% not guilty. The Mutants, guilty by 57%. So, after all that, Dave leads the series 3-1 with one trial to go, Mr. Fingers.
Told you not to call me that in public.
Cameron, there's still time to make the score look respectable. You can narrow this down even further tonight with the Time Monster.
Oh,
feeling confident?
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm going into this the same as a Rangers performance in Europe.
Funny she say that, you'll find out in a minute. So, Time Monster is going on a trial. So, if you want to get in touch with us tonight, you can do so through YouTube. There's a live chat box in there. Fire us off a message. We will put it up on screen as we receive them. Talking of which, already been in touch tonight, and this is a bit meta, is David Cummings, who says a few technical issues will be on soon. Yep. Quite how you want to get that message out there when I'm the one that controls this
Because I
from
put
this
a
end.
message on YouTube so the people waiting for us on YouTube could see it.
You're not just a pretty face, are you?
No. I'm also a technical consultant. We'll get to that later.
So, those are the details of tonight's. Shall we just crack on with it, because we are running late because of the aforementioned technical details? All right then, it's time, once again, and for the final time, to go back to 1972, the rock and roll years. Will tonight's subject be the stuff of legend, or will it just make a right tom tit of itself? Let's find out as we put the Time Monster on trial.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, you can't foresee it all. Look at you, you're growing holes. My monitor, all the cages in the world can't contain the rages of the monitor.
The Time Monster was written by Robert Sloman with input from Barry Letts. It was directed by Paul Bernard and produced by Barry Letts, with music by Dudley Simpson. It starred John Pertwee as the Doctor, Katie Manning as Jo, and Roger Delgado as the Master, with Nicholas Courtney as Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, John Levine as Sergeant Benton, Richard Franklin as Captain Mike Yates, Mark Boyle as Kronos, Ian Collier as Stuart Hyde, Wanda Moore as Dr. Ruth Ingram, George Cormack as King Dalios, Ingrid Pitt as Queen Galea, and Donald Eccles as Crassus. It was broadcast between Saturday the 20th of May and Saturday the 25th of June 1972, and the viewing figures were 7.6 million for Part 1, 7.4 million for Part 2, 8.1 million for Part 3, 7.6 million for Part 4, 6 million for Part 5, and 7 million for Part 6. Those are the cold hard facts behind the story itself. Shall we get a little bit more Oh, yes, Dave?
Can I just point out there's a piece of casting that you didn't mention there, which is quite impressive and quite important.
Okay, go ahead.
The Minotaur was played by Dave Prowse, who obviously went on to fame as the Green Cross Code Man. And I think he maybe did other Selected Five stuff as well.
Some awesome role, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think we need to mention that Darth Vader himself was in Doctor Who. Just this episode. Which makes it, quite an important episode for that alone. But sorry, I'll let you get back to your spiel now.
No, that's okay. That was totally worth bringing up. So, those are the historical facts behind the episode as it stands. Let's find a little bit more of historical context behind the story tonight. Let's find out what was happening in the world at large when this episode was broadcast in... On May 24th, Rangers win the Cup Winners' Cup with a 3-2 win over Dynamo Moscow in the final at Barcelona's Nou Camp Stadium, kicking off an unprecedented decade of success for Scottish football clubs in Europe. On May 27th, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration announced its plans to form advisory commissions for the purpose of regulating 13 different occupational hazards, including toxic chemicals, excessive noise, radiation, and spending more than 5 minutes alone in Noel Clarke's trailer. On June the 9th, Bruce Springsteen receives his big break as he signs a 10-record deal with CBS Records. And on June 20th, on their first day back at the White House after the Watergate break-in, President Nixon and Chief of Staff Haldeman meet at the Oval Office. When the tape recording of their conversation was subpoenaed later by a special prosecutor, it was found that 18.5 minutes of the tape had been erased. Luckily, a copy of the missing recording was later discovered in the back room of a Nigerian television station in 1987, and for the princely sum of just £100, you too can view a specially created animation of the event, put together by Ian Levine. And finally, on June 21st, Deep Throat makes its debut at the World Theatre in Manhattan. The film famously held the record for containing the filthiest scenes ever committed to celluloid for 21 years, until... Apologies. I should have pointed out before I played that clip that viewers of a nervous disposition should probably have looked away there. Do sleep well, don't have nightmares.
Jesus.
That was beautiful.
I felt like an extra long edit that final section as well. Like in my head, that's like 2 seconds long, but no, you found like 15 seconds of that.
Yeah. Listen, you've got to see it. You've got to see it all the way through.
Was that the extended cut, was it?
It was, yeah.
Probably get from the BBV website for in 1999 for an extra 10 seconds.
Yeah, that was the under the counter one I got in a brown paper bag from Bill Bags.
Nice.
So now that traumatic experience is out the way for everybody, I should point out, just before we start the trial, that voting is now open. So based on the arguments put forward by Dave, Cameron and Dylan tonight, the Time Monster, is it going to be guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who? Go to Twitter, look what's up on the Polis box, cast your vote there. We will reveal the final results at the end of tonight's show. Before we get into the trial proper, shall we see what our viewers think of the Time Monster?
Yeah, probably better. It's a nice thing to do, you know.
It's for the friend. We should pretend we care what they think.
It's polite to do so, isn't it? Let's find out what they think then. In.
This is the law. Chapter 1.
So then, first part of viewer evidence we got tonight was from Mark Donaldson from On the Time Lash. Mark says, John Levine is a big baby, but enough about that. Here are my thoughts on the Time Monster. Unit versus Romans, a trip to Atlantis, a pigeon trapped in a loft, Nick Courtney running on the spot. It's absolutely mad, it doesn't all work, and therefore is peak Doctor Who.
Why? Why?
Because he's right.
He is right. Mark Donaldson knows what he's talking about.
He does.
Okay, next bit of viewer evidence. I have to get it in my mind. It's not listener evidence anymore. Now we're doing this on YouTube. Viewer evidence. I'll train myself over the gap in the series. I'll flog it into myself.
They're listening as well, surely.
They are. Yeah, they have ears as well as eyes.
You know, if you're going to be picky.
Next bit of viewer/listener evidence is from Rassalon's Trousers, who says part of growing older and wiser is learning to love bad Doctor Who and no longer taking it as a personal insult when it's crap. By any measure, the Time Monster is crap, but that's also why I love it. It's funny, ridiculous, and like the best things in life, doesn't take itself remotely seriously.
I'd say Cameron's hopefully not feeling as good about this now, because you probably thought this was going to be an easy win.
I think I said it might be easier than some of the last ones. Because I was hoping for.
That's 2 votes for me so far, basically, or 2 people on my side.
Well, yeah,
Sorry,
but even one that says that it's crap.
No, but people love it. Rassilon's Trousers loved it, even though it was crap. Which is basically Doctor Who, right? We all love it, but it's a bit crap.
People love Ed Sheeran as well, but that doesn't make him right.
No, it is a bit crap, though.
Yeah.
More than a bit. Let's see if the third bit of your evidence supports Cam's claims tonight. Let's go and find out. It's from Daniel Knight, who says it's as guilty as a puppy sitting next to a pile of poo, or should that be a pile of tomtit?
Very good.
Yes. Daniel Knight knows. Always like that Daniel Knight. He's always talking sense.
A rare lapse in judgment for Daniel Knight there, I think.
Excuse me, talking of lapses in judgment, we have Joe Short next, who says, I love it and I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's batshit crazy, but damn good fun too.
Excellent.
Yep.
Lisai.
So, mixed bag so far. It's kind of 50-50. The final bit of your evidence.
It's not 50-50.
50-50-ish.
3-1 is not 50-50.
All right, Rachel Riley. Okay.
All right, bring up the final piece of evidence then.
Final piece of evidence is from Litton Exists, who I believe is familiar to one of us tonight. He says, I watched the parts 5 and 6 and thought part 5 is part 3 or something. What the actual hell were they doing for the first 4 parts?
Doesn't
He's
say
right.
he doesn't like it, though.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly like a massive criticism or a massive win for it. It's just going, not sure what happens in the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
I've always liked Lytton Exists. You know.
You
He's
kind
like a
of have
son
to
to
say
me.
that though, don't you?
I do
He is
kind
like
of
a
have to
son
say
to you.
that. Yes.
But brilliant if you just went, no, I hate him. I've never liked him.
Yeah.
Tried to have him
Somebody raised that
adopted.
kid
You know?
wrong. That's what I think.
Okay, so before we break down Cameron's family unit any further, shall we get into the trial itself?
Go on then.
Let's do it. Okay, we shall probably let our guest go first tonight. So Dylan, do you want to give us your first point in the defence of the Time Monster, please?
Yes, well, I mean, my first point is really, I'm sort of summing up my overall love of it, really. But I think this is a fantastic story. It's tonally and stylistically a complete departure from the Pertwee era as we've known it. It's having fun with the material and it feels very self-aware. It lacks the pomposity and the legendary status of the previous season finale, The Demons, which I've never been a huge fan of, to be honest. It reaches for huge ideas and concepts. We've got gods and monsters and history and time travel. And when people talk about 70s Doctor Who inspiring the 2005 series, the 2005 reboot, this is it. It's not Frontier in Space or Terror of the Autons or anything like that. It's a funny little script full of childlike wonder, and this is why I think this is an absolute belter of a story. And it's also the most 70s Doctor Who ever gets. The colour palette is browns and oranges. There's Danish furniture, there's room dividers, and there's marmalade sandwiches. It's an absolute riot from start to finish. Case closed.
There you go. See you next time, folks.
Go then, Cam. Rebut that.
Well, without doing a Richie Morgan and burning through every single point I've got, because there was a lot to take in there. There's a lot to unpack.
I've got a lot more because it's great.
Okay, well that's fine. I felt like you were just going the whole thing there. No, as we will get to in my evidence. I mean, it's if you're going to talk about it being a riot, it's possibly the slowest riot known to mankind. It's probably a riot through treacle, is what I would describe it as. It is. No, I can't sort of. I don't want to pick apart your whole point because obviously you've given quite a list there, and I will get round to each one individually as the show goes on. But I will start by saying I had not much of a memory of Time Monster when when I say we drew this, when this became a part of the series that we drew originally. This was the one that I couldn't really place any image on. There wasn't any sort of defining image in my head about this. And then I woke up in a cold sweat one night and staring at my ceiling, I went, this is the one with that flapping fucking bug.
Did you sit bolt upright in bed and go, Kronos?
Yeah, come to me, Kronos. And then Claire was like, fucking gonna go back to bed. And then it was, so there was a sense of dread as I approached this. And upon watching it over the last couple of days, and it had to be a couple of days, there was no way I was sitting watching this in a one go. This, I realise, is, for me, just, it has the idea to me of like the last day of term and not really giving a fuck about anything because you're away for your summer holidays afterwards, so who gives a stuff? And for a variety of reasons that I will go into individually in a little bit.
But wasn't the last day of term the best day of the school year?
Yeah.
It's the day you always look forward to.
You got to bring in games.
When you're making... Yeah, but they might as well have brought in games, because it probably would have been better than this. And I'd rather start and watch John Pertwee playing a bit of like Snakes and Ladders rather than this. You know what I mean?
Now pay attention, Joe. This is Buckaroo.
Yeah, there would be an entire scene of like him explaining to Joe how to play fucking Buckaroo, like wouldn't there'd be entire. Now you put the hat on the saddle, Joe. And the idea is not to make it kick. Apologies for my terrible John Pertwee impersonation there, by the way. Anyway. Yeah. What's Dave got to say on this matter?
On which matter? The matter of Dylan being right? That is fun and joyous and relaxed? Or your point that it's like the best day of the school year? I agree with both of you.
I feel that tonight is going to be like some kind of me getting framed as a killjoy. When in reality, all I want is sanity and sense.
No, all you want is a 3-parter that does not have any telesnaps. That's all you want. Some of us like Doctor Who.
Yeah, I'd probably take that. I'd probably take,
yeah.
In fact, I'm kind of sad this wasn't a telesnap. It's the only way I could have possibly hated it more. You know.
No,
anyway, yeah.
You're just wrong, Cameron. You're just wrong.
Is it?
In so many ways. Because I'll go straight at one of my points to defense here.
Go for it.
Go on then.
There's no overarching political points here. All through this series, it's got like, oh, this is obviously a stand-in for colonialism and this is all about feminist issues. There's no political points being made. There's no overarching theme, nothing standing in for anything else. This is just a batshit science fiction story. Which, after the previous stories, is a nice break, it's a nice change. It is, as Cameron said, like the last day at school. You know you're not going to get any homework. Your mates have brought their games in. You're not going to do anything all day. You're just going to have fun. And that's what this is. It's light. There's nothing serious about it. It's just, let's throw some random science fiction shit at the wall. And none of it will stick, but it'll be fun watching it slide down. And that's all it is for 6 parts. Cameron's going to go on about how long this is, but there's nothing that you'd want to edit out.
Cameron's not. Cameron's going to hone in on something you said. I'm going to laser
Cameron.
in on that shit.
Come on.
Right. No political message. None. Nothing.
No overarching political message.
No overarching political message.
There's little ones here and there. There's
Not
mention
involved in
of
part of the
feminism.
story, but I'll roll in with my first point for the prosecution then. Right. There is a sinister air of misogyny going on throughout this entire story.
The BBC in the 1970s.
I know, it's shocking. It's really weird, I know. But there seems to be something of a sneering anti-women's lib vibe to the entire script. The opening episode, we have Hyde rolling his eyes and talking about women's lib before Ingram shouts at any bloke in the near vicinity for an entire duration. It's uncomfortable to watch now, and I'd like to think it felt equally ridiculous in 1972. This is also the story that we get Joe's line in which Katie Manning has to deliver with the utmost of seriousness as Joe the line, "I know I'm incredibly dim." Which is kind of...
She is one of the stupidest characters in Doctor Who, and she's in the story with Stu.
She's very shiny. She's not dim, she's very shiny. There's not much behind it, but it's very shiny.
Don't pull any punches, Dylan. Tell us what you really think.
I mean, I think she's a great character, but you know, she is a dim character. She's meant to be dim, you know.
Yeah.
As we all know, women were in the 70s.
What a terrible thing for you to have to say for your character. Oh yeah, I know I'm really fucking stupid, but can you explain this to me in simple terms? It's like, my God, I had to pause it and put down my pen and just go, Jesus, yes, that was broadcast.
It's almost
my
like
God,
she's standing in for the audience. So she's asking things to be explained from the audience's
But by
point
that
of view.
definition, we say that the audience are dim as well.
The audience are children. So she's
It's just a
standing
kids'
in and
TV
they
show.
understand this. Yeah. So that's
Why are we arguing with the kids' TV show? I found it.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, Dylan. No, go ahead. You're the guest. Come on.
I was just going to say, like, I think it's more a reflection of the time rather than a political agenda or a political message. I do think this is very politics light for the era. And I can only imagine that when people talk about Doctor Who being too woke now, they're saying bring it back to the days of the Time Monster. We want more stuff like the Time Monster. That's what Russell T Davies is going to do. So,
Russell T Davies is going to put women in their place.
You heard it here first.
That's what they are. RTD 2.0, anti-woke, get in the kitchen. That's what he does.
Don't even think about touching that Buckaroo set.
Renowned, expert on, masculinity, Russell T Davies. You've got Andrew Tate, Russell T Davies. They're side by side. You'll be on GB News before you know it.
I don't know about saying that Russell T Davies has no masculinity. He looks as if he could do some serious damage in a pub car park fight.
Yeah. Have you never heard that story about him and Christopher Eccleston supposedly having a punch-up and Russell T Davies winning? It's almost certainly not true, but it's fun enough that I like to believe it's true. He's a very tall man, and I reckon he could knock us all out, Russell T Davies.
Yeah.
Well, probably, and if he does, I'll be running away quite rapidly.
What were the circumstances that led to this punch-up? I've never heard this.
I don't know. It's one of these stories that's floated around fandom for years about them falling out during Doctor Who over whatever, and yeah, apparently they ended up in a scrap.
Wow.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining how that would have gone down. It's just crazy.
It'd be too close to call, wouldn't it? I wouldn't like to put any money on that.
No, Eccleston would have lost.
Probably.
Oh, wow.
Just because he's known for playing gritty Northerners doesn't mean he has actually won. He's still an actor.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you see him in Gone in 60 Seconds, he doesn't look like he'd fight anything. He barely looks out if he knows how to act in that. So yeah.
I hope Christopher Eccleston isn't watching.
Hopefully
Chris,
not.
if you're listening and you'd like to give a rebuttal, you're free to come on the show anytime you want.
Nah, he's watched once before, and he never bathes in the same river twice, so he won't be watching this. I like what I've said in the intro to this episode about we're not like the analytical Doctor Who podcasts, and now we're into who would win in a fight between the Ninth Doctor and Russell T Davies. Proving the point. It's a discussion we're having, I think.
It is. No, I found there was a really bizarre anti-feminist line running through the script. Like, there's at least 2 or 3 occasions where women's lib is kind of like poo-pooed and just shoved to one side, and there's a rolling of the eyes. And then I say, to top it off with Joe having to say, I know I'm exceedingly dim. It just kind of like gave this kind of weird kind of edge to it for me. That was kind of this, it was almost kind of bordering on this kind of nastiness through it. It was odd and just kind of out of place in a story that, you're right, should be fun. And I just felt it was kind of a kind of seedy undercurrent.
Of course, the counterpoint would be the scientists, where the male scientist, boy, has got a flouncy shirt on, scared of heights, falls over a bit. Whereas she is the driven, scientific, intelligent one that runs the experiments and basically saves everyone by the end of it.
Who at one point says she can't possibly do anything without the professor being in the room.
Yes, but that's because she's a professional scientist.
Yeah.
She doesn't say she's not capable.
But she refuses to do anything because the professor's in the room.
Yes.
Or the master in this case. Slash the professor.
Well, I mean, this sort of leads me on to one of my points for the defence, and that is Stu Hadley. And it is nice to see the sort of gender flip happen there of what would traditionally be a female role of someone who's a bit useless. I mean, he can't even successfully walk into a room convincingly, and he is useless in every way. But he has the most redeeming factor is when the Doctor says he needs a wine bottle, he just pulls an empty one from under his bed. It's like, I've got the measure of Stu. And finally, a relatable character in Doctor Who.
Yeah, Hyde's acting in this was kind of so wooden, I thought he was going to go bald in the winter. My word, the exchanges between him and Ingram are something to behold. There's definitely, ironically, for two scientists, there's a distinct lack of chemistry.
Well, that's because Stu's gay, right? I mean, it might only be there in the subtext, but it feels like Stu's a gay man, a useless gay man, but a gay man nonetheless.
Yeah, it does. You do get that vibe. I don't know if it's deliberate or if it's just him deciding to put that into the role. But yeah, that you get the vibe that he has always been the gay little brother to an extent.
Yeah,
and this is what Russell T Davies will bring to Doctor Who.
Played masterfully by Ian Collier, who also plays Omega. So it's what range for an actor there? Omega and Stu, they couldn't be more different. So I mean, what a casting!
Blimey, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was Omega as well.
Yeah, he gets around, old Ian Collier.
Wow, fantastic. But we're only talking about this story, obviously.
Yeah, we'll get to Ark Infinity someday. Someday we'll get
someday,
there.
Yeah. Someday when, in good old Amsterdam.
Okay, we've burned for you a few points there, so we'll just go back around then. Dylan, do you want to give us another point for the defence?
I'd love to. I want to talk, about the sort of stylistic nature of this and Paul Bernard's direction. I just find it looks so different to a lot of the stories around it, and you can tell he's really trying to reach for stuff, and some of that's in the script, but it starts with the Doctor having a nightmare, which is just something you never see. And we get all these beautiful imageries of the flapping Kronos. I know people say it's a pigeon in a loft or whatever, but I think that's one of the most original designs the era's done. And we get knights on horseback charging at a unit convoy. We get Spitfires, we get shootouts, huge explosions, a brand new TARDIS, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more later. It's just the sound design surrounding Kronos as well. There's been real thought into making this something completely different from what has come before it. And on that note, it pops visually a lot more than, say, the Sea Devils or the Demons or something like that. It's a good looking episode of Doctor Who, albeit with the limitations of the era.
The Sea Devils were shite, wasn't it?
I mean, I've never liked the Sea Devils, but
where were you a month ago?
I was watching the Time Monster, trying to find something positive to say about it.
I'm sure Dylan's one vote would have made a dent on that 87-13 defeat.
He could have come on. He's an influential guy. Where were we? Now, there's a part of this where I would agree with you, and that's in the portrayal of Atlantis. And all the bits in Atlantis look really good. And it's a really nice set. And it kind of adds to a bit of the mystique of the story. But then again, that is only episode 5 out of 6. And that's it. The rest is dull science lab corridors and TARDIS interiors, which admittedly are quite shiny new. You're gonna say it looks different, and in the start of your opening gambit, you were saying that there's lots of shades of brown, and it's the most 70s Doctor Who. Great. Does that make it a fantastic story? No, it does not. Does that make it a fantastic slice of Doctor Who? No, it does not. As we go on tonight, I want to make the point that if this had been a Doctor Who story about the Master trying to gain power in Atlantis, and the Doctor having to go down to the labyrinth and seek out the Minotaur, I'd be up for that. That sounds great. and it probably would have been, but it's surrounded in this ridiculous bollocks that just, for the other 5 episodes of the 6-part run, that just does it absolutely no favours.
I mean, I don't think there's... to say that there's nothing of interest in those earlier parts, I just don't think it's true. I think that you could tell the more standard issue Doctor Who story, but this does something different. It's both the contemporary period of the 70s with loads of bits of different eras thrown in there, and as I said, these things like the Spitfires and the Cavaliers and all these things. And it's doing a bit of a timey-wimey Moffat-y thing. I can't think of another story where you're suddenly flashing to another plot somewhere, such as Atlantis, which we do get bits of in the other episodes. And you're not quite sure how these two things relate. I think it's a really interesting way to tell that story rather than just running around the maze with the Minotaur. If you want that, go and watch the Horns of Nimon.
Yeah, you want to find a guilty verdict, you go there. Janet Ellis or no Janet Ellis?
I like Nimon. Have we done Nimon?
We have not done the Horns of Nimon, no.
I like Nimon.
We've skirted around it. We've done like Destiny the Daleks, and we've done something else. Meglos we've done as well.
Oh yeah, we did Meglos.
Still yet to get to that.
The bit you referenced twice now, the bit where the Master is demonstrating to a unit as they transport the TARDIS about his powers over time. Now, there's one major point I would have against that, is the fact that the Master is trying to display his power over time with Kronos when he's a fucking Time Lord. He could have probably done this on his own, surely. And also, it's one scene which, yes, you're trying to get over the point. Look, they can just conjure up anything and put it back in there, and again, some roundheads pop up, and knights jousting. It's a bit of fun for when the knight comes and does the jousting. That's fine, but I'd argue it's a joke that wears incredibly thin as the scene goes on for over 5 minutes long.
I mean, it's a long scene, but it's a fun bit of action showing what Havoc and all the boys can do. Nobody moans about the last episode of Planet of the Spiders, the middle episode of Planet of the Spiders, where they're running around in cars and helicopters for no reason for 30 minutes. So 5 minutes of it's the end of the season. Let's do a big bit of history, a big fight. Why not? That's how Doctor Who finales end these days.
Let's play Buckaroo.
With real grenades.
Yeah.
Listen, Cam, if it's good enough for the War Games, it's good enough for the Time Monster, mate.
Yeah.
But also, if he just brought back the plane, blown up the convoy, that would have been a very short scene, you're right. But it wouldn't have raised the tension. It started with the knight on horseback, then he raised it to the next level of technology. So it's exposing kids to history in an almost educational way, as well as being entertaining, before you get the final big hit on the convoy, where we think, oh no, people might have died. Turns out they've all
What other Doctor Who stories have we got where they just pick up random bollocks from history and put it in the same room? I'm thinking Fort of Doomsday.
I'm thinking almost all of them.
That's the format of the show, isn't it?
You've not really narrowed the field much there.
Pick up bollocks.
Yeah, just just like plucking
That's the synopsis.
Surely though, if you're going to pluck roundheads from out of nowhere, they're going to be hellish confused as well. You know what I mean? If you're a roundhead, and suddenly you're like, you suddenly get transported to some field somewhere in the far-flung future, as far as you're concerned, and there are steel horses on wheels riding towards you.
You're going to attack
You'd
them.
be petrified. You'd run away.
Fire,
You've got
surely.
a weapon. Defend yourself.
There'd be some strange. What is this strange magic? Down tools, run.
No,
You would.
they reacted exactly how they should, because they're soldiers. They tried to kill it, blow it up, stab it.
Yeah. If something that's scary comes towards you, stab it. That's like, in many ways, human instinct as well.
If something
Can I
scary.
just point out, as a general rule, the Polis box does not endorse Dave's last statement, okay?
The Polis box has gone woke, I tell you.
You don't know. I remember the days, Dave, where you could
Nice
walk around
sign,
anywhere and
Dave.
stab anyone. You remember those days, Dave?
I used to live in Wester Hills, so yes, I do.
I'll get some t-shirts made up for Christmas. The Polis box says, "If it moves, chip it."
On the back, hashtag bring back chips. Brackets, you know that one.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Where were we?
You were saying the historical scenes were too long, even though they slowly.
Yes, it's a joke that wears thin for me personally. It's like yes, get on with it. And my overwhelming sensation during the whole thing, and thought during the whole thing was, why does he need Kronos to do this? He's a Time Lord. Surely, if he wanted to bring roundheads and that, he'd do it on his own.
But this is just him sort of testing the power of Kronos. Ultimately, he wants Kronos for like dominion over time, 100%. And Kronos is a god who can provide him with that.
Again, he's Time Lord.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not gods.
He can move around in time. He can't control time itself. Kronos
why
can.
does he? I didn't get why he needs this to be a thing. It just
To stop those pesky
Time
kids
Lord.
ruining his plan.
Just do it on
every
your
fucking
own.
Time.
He just has to kind of go, oh yes, Kronos. No, you're a fucking Time Lord. When would you need to do? I was just frustrated. I just didn't know. As a writer oneself, one does look at the script first, you see, and one does try the best to get the plot holes, as it were, and the character motivations correct.
Well, it's
Anyway.
not to make the horse kick off the stuff. That's the motivation, isn't it? It's always the motivation of Buckaroo.
Yeah, you're not having to
bit.
look for a deeper meaning here,
Yeah.
Well, what is the donkey thinking? Does this relate to some sort of trauma in its past? I don't think the Buckaroo donkey has a character arc, Cam.
He might.
It's a very simple,
Why not?
basic one. He does. He's calm. then
Why
he's
does the Buckaroo donkey look so sad? Why is his natural response to people putting things on him to kick at
Just a
them?
lash out.
What's happened in his past?
Towards him, he's just
Why
defending himself with that knife.
is the Buckaroo donkey resorting to violence? That's what I'm asking. I'm asking you, and no one can give me any answers as to why this Buckaroo don't know.
Next week on the Polis box, we'll be psychoanalyzing pop-up pirates.
Are you doing the smugglers? Terrible.
We're going to chip him as well.
Yeah,
See if we can't make that head come clean off. Okay, we've gone back. We've gone back down another Donkey Boulevard here. So should we move on to the next point
better
for
move on,
the
yeah.
prosecution? Go on in, Cam.
Yes. Right. Okay. Second point. This is probably what I meant by when I said last day of term. There's a kind of lackadaisical aspect to this as well. If you are going to write a scientific process into your story, and your characters are going to have to repeat the phrase that it is, the name of it, with the utmost of sincerity and with a straight face, it's probably best not to call it Tomtit or something similar.
But they managed to say it with a straight face.
Yeah, but it smacks
they're
to me
professionals.
of someone said, bet you 20 quid, or probably a fiver back in 1972, that you can't get the phrase Tomtit into a Doctor Who broadcast. And also, I think we'll be able to find that Tomtit backwards is Tit MOT, which I think is a service that Patrick Troughton was offering in his dressing room a few years beforehand. But anyway, I thought that was bad enough when I was watching this. But then I noticed the close-up of the sensor device that is handed to Jo, which I think she's actually advised to hold it correctly. And I wish I could bring pictorial evidence to the courtroom for this. I did capture a still on my phone But it is it's a cock and balls. Can we just admit, please, that the sensor that she has to use for time vortexes or something like that is a cock and balls?
Well, if you want to admit that the image on your phone that you got from WhatsApp is a cock and balls, that's up to you, Karen. However you say you came by and why you've got it, that's fine.
I think it brings some much needed levity to a very serious season of Doctor Who. You know, the Pertwee era is very, very serious, and I feel like a lot of the time the jokes are few and far between, and every now and then something like they let go a little bit and have a bit of fun. So maybe there is a little bit of carry-on elements to parts of this, but they're done in a Doctor Who style. And Doctor Who's very
carry-on
good at
element.
riffing off. Yeah, but there's
it's a cock and balls, Dylan. It's a cock and balls.
Can I just point out, Dylan, a little bit? Really? Just a little bit?
There we go, he's found it.
Look, I'm not denying it's not a cock and balls. I'm just justifying why it's a cock and balls.
Yeah.
And which is the fact that Doctor Who often riffs on other genres, other, different IP.
Other cock and balls.
Like so why not the Carry On series? Eh?
Yep. After all, I've got a stalwart of the Carry On films in this very episode, so makes sense.
Exactly. I mean, it just feels like they're having a bit of fun with it, but it's never to the detriment of the story, which I think holds together. And the fact that somebody like Roger Delgado manages to shout the line "Come, Kronos, come" with a straight face, it just shows what an absolute professional that man was.
Roger Delgado is trying his level best in all of this, with some terrible, terrible lines to get them as best he can. To be fair, of everyone that is acting in this, Roger Delgado is the one that is going outright great guns to actually get it to have some kind of vague sense.
Yeah, very true. And of course, it was shouting "Come, Kronos, come" that got John back. Sorry. No.
One day I'll trademark that joke.
We're going to have to monetize this in some way, aren't we? That's going to have to be a fiver in the jar there.
I could have retired by now. Exactly. My house would be mine.
I'll set up a PayPal afterwards. We'll get this going.
Yeah. Just do that. Just drop us 20p whenever you use it. It'd be great.
Yeah, nice wee tip jar.
Yeah. No, I just think it's just. That's what I mean. It's end of series, end of term giggles. It's just not taking. There's a level of effort which is just like, oh yeah, it'll be right fun. It'll be a cock and balls, and it's just like, yeah. And you're, as an audience, supposed to go along with this being a serious Doctor Who story, and being something to invest your time into. When it looks like they couldn't have been fucking arsed either.
I bet kids loved this. I bet they thought it was great fun. And they wouldn't have spotted the cock and balls.
No, I was going to say they wouldn't have spotted the cock and balls.
That's there for the dads. Something for the dads, like Louise Jameson.
Katie Manning holding a cock and balls. Who wouldn't tune in for that?
I think something for the dads is the 3 or 4 shots that are seemingly up Katie Manning's skirt during the.
Now, let me guess, you've also got photo evidence of those on your phone. That's fine.
Not from this
episode. When I said between 3 and 4, that makes it sound like I was keeping count.
Yeah. 3 or 4, you're not sure because you've not zoomed on one of them properly. The Photoshop just doesn't.
3 out of 4 to episode 1, 12 minutes and 4 seconds.
But yeah, you said a minute, Cameron, you feel like they're not taking this seriously enough. That's a good thing sometimes. It doesn't have to be a serious show. You can have jokes in it. You can have comedy.
I have jokes in it, but at least well-constructed stuff that's just not like, wouldn't it be really funny, right? If we said Tom Tit a lot.
But yes, it's a stupid name, but you can see how that could have caught on. There's a lot of things in Doctor Who that have got silly names that sometimes catch on. TARDIS, 6-letter word, made up of an acronym, starts with T, eventually they decide what it's made up of. And it
doesn't feature the word tit.
No, but it sounds a bit like TARDIS, doesn't it? Could be a turd in there.
Yeah.
So they
And
make up
people-
names all the time. You want a comedy
Yeah.
name? What's the unit from the military? Their unit. Yeah, but what unit is it? No, they're just unit. Like, that's just fucking stupid as well. They would just be called
Undertaker.
unit. They'd have an actual
The
name.
kid-
Imagine if they were called UTIT.
I'm there for it. But all the kids were saying Tom Tit all through the summer of 1972, 73. There were
Yep.
Tom Tits in all the shops. It was Tom Tit mania. You couldn't move for it.
All the Tom Tits, all the Tom Titting time. Tomming their tits with abandon.
When they went playing with their clackers,
Yep.
they had their tom tits out.
Is that the episode title? Summer of 72, the Summer of Tom Tit. Oh dear.
Okay. Enough of tits, Tom, or otherwise. Let's move on to the next point for the defence, Dave. Let's have something else in defence of the Time Monster.
This is one that people have mentioned already, and it's the special effects, particularly the flying pigeon trapped in the attic. As Dylan has said, this is different to the effects of almost everything that's gone before it. Previous effects have been dark, or they've been explosions, or they've been really shitty costumes. With this, they've actually tried something different. And yeah, now it looks a bit weird. It looks like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons when he goes all glowy. It's that kind of high-speed strobe lighting student film almost. But they tried something new. They tried something different. And for the time, it works. And you can see similar styles of effects for things in modern episodes. The thing it actually made me think of is Army of Ghosts, where you see them glowing and they're coming through and you think that could be anything. That's the modern version of that. And it's the same in Spyfall, when they're coming through from another dimension and they just kind of glow and they look otherworldly. That's me almost feels like that's what they were going for here. It's just the effects of the time couldn't do it. So again, they had a really good idea. They knew what they wanted to do, and they did the best they could with the production values, the effects, and the budget they had at the time. So I think they should be applauded for trying new things, trying new effects, even if, yes, now they don't look that great. I think for the time it was awesome.
I can only repeat that. I think it's a fantastic costume. It's a fantastic effect. Maybe, in terms of they're shooting it how they can, but I think if you actually get that costume stood there, I think it's a really cool looking thing. And if you look what the things it's surrounded by, a year later you've got the Bollock monster in Frontier from Space, and Azal had some very questionable trousers on and things like that, and Colony in Space, the creatures in that are very weird. I think this is just quite a convincing alien design.
Yeah.
Kronos.
Yes.
Convincing.
Yes, as an otherworldly entity, yes.
Especially a bit when he first comes through and he's in the radiation room and it's just lots of fast cuts of flapping wings and everything.
Yeah.
That's good. That makes him seem like a bit of a threat, even though that's not him being immediately aggressive. It's just something very, very large and flappy and frantic in an enclosed space.
And that sound design that accompanies him as well.
Yeah. Aye.
Point number 3 for the prosecution.
It's just going to lead into something, is it? On you go.
This gonna be, for being a mighty god, the actual presentation of Kronos leaves a lot to be desired. For the vast bulk of this story, Kronos takes the form of an angry envelope. What the fuck?
I mean,
Blatantly. Carry on, Dylan.
I was going to say, I'd just like to say how progressive the character of Kronos is, because they might be the first transgender character in the series of Doctor Who, starting off as in a male form, admittedly a flappy bird male form, and ultimately appearing as a woman at the end. So the progressive nature of this is something to be admired.
The progressive nature of someone transferring from an angry envelope to a big head floating in space. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No other TV show in the 70s was doing that.
Nope.
No, not at all. No, I don't think anyone probably looked at this and thought better of it. No, I was Kronos for me, for being a mythological god. You know, the ruler of time itself, reduced to a not so much a flappy bird, more of a crappy bird. Hey, no, it wasn't for me. Definitely not one of Doctor Who's best costume designs, even at the time. I don't think. Just not what it should have been for being hyped up as being a mighty god presence. You know, have the woman who plays them at the end play them all the way through. Just do that. Rather than having, what is this? Why is it just this crazed animal?
I mean, as a crazed animal, it's because we mere mortals can't understand what that crazed animal is representing, doing, or saying, because it's speaking in a language we can't possibly understand, because it is far more advanced and far more intellectual and just a concept that's completely untranslatable to us.
I kind of get the funny feeling that the defense is just making shit up now.
I would
Judge?
never do that.
I would say that's slanderous, and we'll see in court, but we're already in court. So
entirely unprecedented on a Polis box. Sort of thing has never happened before.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Now, do we all know that Kronos is due to make a comeback in a real-time pictures video Doctor Who spin-off? This is true. Anomaly, which they've been trying to get off the ground for a number of years, will see Kate Stewart, the original one from Downtime, played by Beverly Cressman, face off against the Time Monster, the Chronivore Kronos. So, I mean, it's an iconic Doctor Who monster that people want back.
yeah, the demand's obviously there eventually if they wait long enough.
They're just paving the way for it to come back into the main show with this, aren't they, Dylan? It's just small steps,
exactly.
test the water, yeah.
I've got it on good authority that Ncuti Gatwa's first series, the big bad, is Kronos.
Oh, they'd have such a flounce off, wouldn't they?
They'd be fighting over the costume.
Has he been upgraded to being an angry envelope to being an angry book? Is there more pages involved? More paper? More cardboard?
It's a whole library. That's what it is.
Wow, an angry library.
Of excitement.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
no, we did that, didn't we?
Yeah. It all boils up to the big series finale in a Ryman's. That's where that's going.
Yeah. An angry
stapler everywhere.
Now, Joe, you put the paper underneath the stapler and you press the top.
No, Joe, take the top off the biro before use.
Oh dear.
Okay, shall we have enough point for the defence before we go to our break? Level things up a little bit.
I'll go with one, and it'll be a relatively short one because everyone will agree on it, and it's one we touched on earlier. And even Cameron will agree with this. Anthony Ainley as the Master.
He's not in this.
No, sorry, the Master in this.
Roger Delgado.
Yes.
Roger Delgado.
Delgado's Master.
You're right, we definitely all can agree that Anthony Ainley was not in this episode of Doctor Who.
8%, that's why. It's Delgado's Master in this. The Master in this, right? It's superb. I mean, it's proper scene-chewing, evil baddie, moustache twirling, proper Master lunacy. And that's what you want in the Master. Because as much as we like Missy and we like all the modern stuff, the proper evil bad guy in a suit, twirling his moustache, trying to take over the world, getting overturned by the Doctor, that's classic Who. That's what it was meant to be. And that's superb in this. As soon as it gets to the point where the Master is trying to take control of things, it's not quite the Master against the Doctor. It's the Master against everyone, because it all starts to unravel straight away. And
absolutely.
It's a great watch.
And he's so charming.
Yeah. He's believable as like a charming, nice, I want to make you my queen. And then 10 minutes later, I'm not listening to you anymore. You're not my queen. and it's properly just scumbag master behavior, and it's really fun to watch.
I'm not going to sit here and argue over the acting credentials of Roger Delgado, because I think we all know as Doctor Who fans that the man was superb.
Yeah.
And I cannot in good conscience argue that he's not. As I kind of alluded to earlier on tonight, he is working rapid uphill during this entire story. It's a testament to the man's skill and ability and his sort of his part in that Doctor Who family of the time that he works seeming wonders with not a lot during all of this. But that is purely down to his ability as an actor and not anything he's given at all during this entire story. And because script-wise, this is dire.
I mean, I think he always gives it his all, and actually, I think all of the regulars are giving it their all. So they've found something in the script to get their teeth into that they really like, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy this. But I think he's a professional and he does a fantastic job. But he too is having fun. I keep coming back to this fun element because that's what this is. It's a lot of fun, and I don't think it's something that's beneath Roger Delgado at all. I think he's having a great time playing this sort of end of season panto version of the Third Doctor era, and I don't mean the panto version as a slight, because panto is always entertaining. Yeah. So I don't think Roger. Yeah, exactly. And he produced Doctor Who for like a decade, so he can't be wrong.
No.
Otherwise, he would have left, right? And they would have replaced him. No.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So I think Roger Delgado is fantastic, and I think the script that he's working with allows him to be fantastic. I don't think he's been fantastic in spite of it.
Yeah.
Is this not his penultimate appearance as the Master?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, that's what's so bittersweet about this. You can tell how much he's having a whale of a time, but this is his final appearance in Doctor Who before he's killed in a car crash the next summer.
Oh, it's Frontier in Space is his final one, right?
Second to last.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Frontier in Space, where he was played by Anthony Ainley. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Then Anthony obviously goes straight to Anthony Ainley after that because he's in it forever. There's a bit of an Anthony in all of us.
Which is just how he would have liked
GNT, Gary Downey dinner party. Yeah.
I read the Anthony Ainley biography once that somebody wrote, and it's just to take us on another tangent. And the woman who wrote it does a fantastic job of trying to portray what he's possibly like. But the main takeaway from the book is everybody goes, "I didn't really know him or know anything about him." So it's basically 200 pages of going, "Well, I never really knew Anthony," and people speculating that he could be gay, could not be gay. There's a whole chapter on his school life where they basically go, he could have sat in a classroom like this, and he could have done such lessons as this, and this, because there's just nothing to know about him.
So it's about the same level as a Channel 5 documentary then?
Yeah, exactly. but imagine like speculating on just the dullest aspects of people's life. Like, he probably liked fish and chips.
We think he might have had it with salt and vinegar.
Or maybe just salt, because some people don't like vinegar. Maybe he was that person.
Maybe he liked pineapple on pizza.
Maybe we should make this documentary as a sort of rival to Richie and Mark's Lost Years of Doctor Who documentary. We can run the Anthony Ainley story alongside it, I think. Just walking through fields, he might have walked through a field like this once, we don't know. He liked a bit of fresh air, possibly.
He could have been go-karting on a Saturday morning. He could have supported Luton Town Football Club. We just don't know.
But apparently, neither does anybody else.
Yep, they will just make shit up.
Anything more to add on Roger Delgado's turn in this?
No, I just think he's working uphill. He's not given him much to work with, and it's more his talent as an actor than anything else that gets him by on this one. There are plenty of other Doctor Who stories where you can tell he's given stuff to do, and it makes it all the better. And this isn't one of them.
Okay then, on that note, shall we take a short break? We can go and
Yes.
recharge our glasses and let the people at home that are watching have a wee quick rest as well. We'll be back then in a few minutes to carry on the trial and eventually reveal the result of tonight's trial of the Time Monster and some exciting news about the next series of the Polis box as well. We'll be back
Reflux.
We're going on the road!
Yeah, me, Dave Cameron and Dave Lee Travis coming to a seaside town near you.
The Polish Box Roadshow!
Special guest star, Sonia.
Every single day.
Supported by Tipau!
Okay, we're going to go and draw up some plans and hire a big vehicle. We'll be back in a few minutes' time. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Yeah, you're busy. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you can fit us into your schedule. Yeah. Okay. Well, keep in touch. Let us know. Okay. Bye. Bye. Lads, bad news. Sonia can't do it.
Shit. What about Gloria Estefan?
She's blocked me.
Fuck.
Can you
What
get
about that
like
cat
half?
that was in the video with her?
Can you get like half a Kajagoogoo or something like that?
Just
a
Just
cadge.
here. Just a cadge. You can get plenty of cadges, yep. These setbacks are only here to test us. We'll make the whole thing work. Welcome back,
It'll be
everyone,
fine.
to the Polis Box.
Hello.
Stroke. With the Radio 1 Roadshow, what the hell this thing's turned into now. We are putting the Time Monster on trial. If you haven't joined us for the first half of tonight's show, we will continue to do so. Who's next? Dylan, do you want to give us another point for defence of the Time Monster?
I absolutely do. I want to talk about the Brigadier, as played by Nicholas Courtney. When the Brig starts, he's a very, serious character and a bit of a foil for the Doctor in many ways. He's the straight man almost. And by this point, and specifically this story, he's really become like a well-rounded character. He's on great form. He's funny. He's witty. He's smart. He finally gets won over early on in the episode by the man from the Ministry in episode 2. There's always some posh twat, isn't there, in every Pertwee story? You can't do that. And it's like Robert Sullivan's gone, I'm bored of this trope. Let's dismiss it early on and let the Brig get his way. He has a fantastic line where he says, really, Doctor, you'll be consulting the entrails of a sheep next, which made me laugh out loud, which old Doctor Who very rarely does. And not to mention, he also does some fantastic moving in slow motion acting. Nick Courtney on the best form, possibly his best performance in Doctor Who ever.
Quite the claim.
Name a better one.
Best perform Mode when I'm dead.
Nah.
That's cheating, there's two of them.
Exactly.
Double the
Double
fun.
the Brig. Double the Brig, double the fun. Some with a tash, some would not. Because you
So
get
you
to
try to
pick
resurrect
which
your
one.
rap career.
Speaking of Double the Brig, I'm going to go on another tangent straight away here.
Go on.
Myself, Mark, and Ben from On the Time Lash were at a convention recently where we were speaking to someone. I don't know whether he'll want me to name him just in case, so I won't just in case.
Oh, go
But
on.
another Doctor Who podcaster who said that in the bar at a Doctor Who convention in the 90s, somebody asked Nicholas Courtney how he bagged such a beautiful woman as his wife, to which Nicholas Courtney just got his massive penis out for a bunch of Doctor Who fans and went, because of this. So there really is double the Brig down there.
And if there's any doubt of how that might look, it was just like this. Apparently the end twirled round.
The end twirls round just to detect time anomalies.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Big Dick Nick, or Big Dick Brig, was on fine
Big
form in
Dick
this
Brig.
story.
Any future Pertwee series we do now, I'm going to refer to him as that and that alone. never
That's
the
the episode
Brigadier
title,
again.
Big Dick Brig.
Yep.
Right. Nicholas
Yeah.
Courtney then, you're asking me. Right, okay, the
Yeah,
Brig.
I'm asking you to assassinate the character of one of the most beloved Doctor Who characters that there is.
Yeah, go on, you monster.
Time Monster. Anyway. Right, yeah, brilliant. He does so great. He does so wonderful. What a well-rounded character. Fantastic, amazing, wonderful. That's why, literally, at about 2/3 of the way through this story, he gets frozen, and that's him done. So he gets nothing else to do. He's doing so well that they literally freeze him out of the last third of this story. Like, they've got nothing else for him to do, nothing else for Unit to do. What do we do? We'll just freeze him. It's fine.
That's how the story was written. It doesn't mean he wasn't acting well.
Yeah.
It's not like a footballer you take him off at half time because he's doing bad. They weren't looking at this going, you know what, actually, this guy's not that good. Let's just rewrite the entire script so he's frozen for the second half of it.
We'll stick him out in episode 3 and replace him with Anthony Ainley.
Yeah. Or one half of Kajagoogoo.
Did I not just say that he does fantastic slow motion acting for the rest? Like, that's what he does for the rest of the story, and it takes a great actor to pull that off.
It's not slow motion; it's standing still.
No, he goes very, very slowly. It's very, very, very. I can't do it because I'm not a good enough actor.
He literally does very little, very well.
Yeah.
You've won an Emmy too.
He's won 2.
Not for acting.
Well, you want to be working on that slow motion. No, just I get what you mean with the brig, and yes, fantastic, but he has little in this story to do other than run around and shout at the Doctor, particularly in one scene, which we're going to get to, and then get frozen out in slow motion and do quite literally not much else for the entire, what feels like 2 episodes right at the end. It's not him that gets to go to Atlantis, is it? No, he's literally just running towards a building very, very slowly. So yeah, it might be a great performance, but it's not as if he does much.
I mean, he's there. He's doing the role that the Brigadier always does in Contemporary Earth, but ultimately the story goes off Contemporary Earth, and he isn't required then because he's not a. In the 3 Doctors, he gets to travel because it's the anniversary. But his place is on Earth, blowing things up, and my God, does he do some of that in this? There's a fantastic explosion as well, which I think we talked about a little bit earlier, caused by the brig and his men. He's being the soldier right there.
Is this the explosion that's the cliffhanger of one of the episodes where they all get to duck behind a car when you realise it's now about 500 metres away and essentially a fart in the wind?
Explosions have it's the backdraft or whatever they call it. Have you not seen Oppenheimer?
No.
Nah, we're Barbie guys, mate.
Yeah, fair. I've not seen it either, but I imagine that's what it's about. I imagine it's a lot like the Time Monster.
It's a Chris Nolan movie, so it's probably like, look, there's a nuclear bomb. Bomb! Bomb! Yeah, that's all Chris Nolan movies. Where were we? Oppenheimer, the brig. I have become death, destroyer of worlds. Yeah, it's again. I'm going to say he doesn't get much to do. He's kind of essentially written out of this story about 2/3 of the way through,
and then he's back in it again later, obviously.
Yeah.
Running towards the building and going, "What's happening here?" Blah.
And then naked Benton.
Essentially, Benton gets his knob out.
It shows his baby Benton, doesn't he?
Yep.
Yep.
Benton doesn't just get his knob out. Benton, this is. I'm going.
That's Nicholas Courtney's act.
And John Barrowman's too.
It was getting his knob out that got John Barrowman into trouble.
Finally, the truth. Do we want to do Benton now, or should we save Benton for a bit? My
only point at Benton was right at the end, point number 9, and it's 4 words, and it's just no one needed naked Benton.
I needed it.
It goes back to the light-hearted carry-on comedy. That's what Naked Benton is. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
It's not sexual, because he was a baby a minute ago, so if you're making that sexual, you're a paedophile. It's comedy.
Or the lead singer of Lost Prophets.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Apparently, it was seeing this as a child that set Watkins on that journey.
Strange enough, it was both Ian Watkins that saw this. One of them saw Kronos, thought, "Oh, I like the flouncing around," became a member of Steps. The other one saw like a baby Benton.
Yeah, we should clarify
sorry,
which
right.
Ian Watkins is. Yeah.
How can I possibly deny that this on that evidence this story is pivotal in popular culture? Good God! I feel regretful. I spent an hour and a half slagging it off now.
Now, Baby Benton makes for. I don't know whether you have watched this with the commentaries on the DVD or Blu-ray box set,
No.
But it makes for one of the most uncomfortable anecdotes of Doctor Who of all time, in which John Levine is doing a commentary on that final episode and goes, "Oh, there's that baby." Unfortunately, very sadly, that baby later died, but at least he got to be in Doctor Who before he went.
Every 7-month-old stream.
It's very sad, but I mean, John Levine just manages to make everything just weird. Just stop being weird, John Levine.
They'd finished filming the last scene, went cut, the Berg turned round, and his massive cock just flung around, hit the poor kid in the head. That was it.
But, you know, speaking of Benton, he doesn't just get naked in this story, does he? He is... I think this is Benton's best story. You know, he's got a real involvement in the plot. John Levine gets to do his own stunts when he climbs from, like, a drain pipe to a window, and you can really see it's him, so he's obviously relishing that. The Master even calls him the resourceful Sergeant Benton, which is John Levine's favourite line from Doctor Who. Although weirdly, I think he seems to think it's actually about John Levine. But there you go. And you know, you get Benton sat with hippies, and he gets like it's a great juxtaposition of the 70s and that era of Doctor Who with this sort of military type who you could conceivably believe would have been a hippie in another life, sat around with these people in flares and stuff like that. And I just think it's great to see Benton involved. You can see why years later Keith Barnfather gave him his own spin-off in the form of Wartime, because he's a charismatic and exciting character.
The natural sequel to the Time Monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, it is nice that John Levine gets stuff to do in this. Because he's obviously going to relish the opportunity to seize any single little bit of morsel of meat he's thrown. And he does get quite a lot to do in these like 3-4 episodes before it goes to Atlantis. So, yeah, I'm glad he gets his wee moment in the sun.
Before being randomly turned into a child.
It's not random, it's a story about time travel and people messing with time travel.
It's a bit, but beforehand, before this, if we're setting up the idea that, you know, it can affect time and age people or make them younger, premature, whatever. There's a lovely bit in this where Hyde is an old man, and effectively the Doctor just kind of leans over him and goes, "Now all you need is some rest."
Not long left.
Man who was like 26 when he sort of starts the story and suddenly ends up being like 66. Has aged that much in such a short space of time. He's obviously in some kind of shock, but he's just told, just sleep it off. It's fine. You'll be okay.
Old people require a lot of rest. Everybody knows this.
But not when you were 26 5 minutes beforehand, Dylan.
Yeah, but he's an old man now. I'm fortunate to still have one grandparent who is like 1,000 years old, and he basically sleeps like 20 out of 24 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, you sure it's your grandparent and not just a cat?
Oh, shit.
I know you made this mistake before, and you know.
I thought he was looking a bit furry.
Do they have a litter tray?
Well, more of a nappy actually, but
yeah, we can't let Grandad out anymore. He shits in the neighbour's garden.
That's what happens when the council moves those ethnic types in.
Yep.
I really hope that my granddad Bill, who is celebrating his 92nd birthday this week, has not for some reason tuned into YouTube, which he's probably never heard of, and found this video of me talking about him wearing an adult nappy.
It's fine, Dylan. I'll send him the link later. He won't miss out. Before we go on to our next point, we have had Well, I've had a little bit more listener evidence. See, here I go again, listener evidence. Viewer evidence that's been submitted
Just
to
say
us.
evidence.
Evidence, yeah. We'll go with that. Here's what people think. Fraser Gregory's been in touch since the trial started. He says about the Time Monster, and I'm going to have to read this out because I've not got a caption that I preferred earlier. It says, it's a story that I can never decide on. Is it a work of genius or utter bobbins? On the one hand, it's got a lot going for it. The stuff with the Master playing with time and using his machine to attack Unit is super Moffat-y. And the Atlantis stuff is great fun. Especially Delgado turning on the charm with Ingrid Pitt, who is a delight. Darth Vader popping up at the Minotaur is also a hoot. But the feel of the whole piece is distinctly but discreetly off, making it feel weird. Delgado is playing it like a pantomime villain. Like Ainley, actually. Benton is more John Levine than anything else, and the whole story has a sense of the money running out, which is super unusual for a let story. The whole thing feels like a pantomime or what Doctor Who would be like if it was made by ITV. It's just strange.
I mean, Fraser Gregory is a wonderful human being. I podcasted with him quite recently to talk about the Battle of Ranskor Avkolos. So he's not always bob on the money when it comes to things. I know he's a big fan of the Dominators too. So he's got some nice ideas there, but someone's tainted Fraser Gregory's view of the story, really.
Someone's corrupted the man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cam probably slipped him 10 quid earlier.
I will have you know, and obviously your information is incorrect. It was 20. But no, and even then he couldn't bring himself to say it was shit.
Because it's not.
Yep.
Your money's no good here.
Also in touch, not so much with evidence, but just to get in touch and say hello, is future guest Joe Ford, who says the only thing that is more pleasurable than talking about the Time Monster is talking to Dylan Rees about the Time Monster.
Oh, what a lovely man.
What a lovely man.
50 quid and a couple of fingers.
Oh, Kit Kat as well.
Exactly. Okay. That's what you're calling it.
I'm down with the slang. I must have.
Yeah. Chocolate fingers.
Chocolate. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah, yes, please.
Where were we last? We were defence last, weren't we? So, prosecution. Do you want to give us another point for the prosecution of the Time Monster? Just before you do, Cam, I should point out there's not that much time left on the vote tonight. About 20 minutes. So if you want to get your vote in, go to Twitter, which I'm now putting at the bottom of the screen. There's the instructions. Submit your votes. Sorry, Cam, when you go. Point for the prosecution.
Have we all buggered off to Blue Sky yet, or is that not a thing?
I don't think it'll ever be a thing.
No.
Really. Well,
we're staying with Twitter until they start charging us 50 quid a day.
Wow. And we're all still calling it Twitter.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Screw you, Elon.
Okay. The scene in which the Doctor gathers together random objects to interfere with the Master's machine, voted as the most ridiculous scene in Doctor Who by readers of SFX magazine in 2011, and it ain't hard to see why. On so many levels, it's just been thrown together with whatever they had at the time.
No,
How is this a thing? It is literally just, you are supposed to believe that a wine bottle with forks stuck in corks at the top of it can spin round and somehow affect a time vortex machine or whatever, or a crystal from some ancient civilization. What random crap is this?
Have you ever tried it?
I've been in the fortunate position, Dylan. I've got an empty wine bottle as well. Because I'm done. And yes, Cameron is on the drink tonight because he had to for this story. If nothing else, that's an indication. Everyone who, regular viewers of the Polis box will know I'm not usually the drinking one, but tonight I had to make an exception. But anyway, yes, this scene is utterly ridiculous. It is folk gathered round something they got out of the bin, and this seems to have a major effect on the story. What the fuck is going on in this story? In this scene?
This was voted most ridiculous. This will be before somebody had sex with a slab, won't it?
No, 2011. So very much afterwards.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think you'll find that slab was very much love.
I'm sure it was, but it's still just what? Ridiculous. That is far more ridiculous than any scene in this.
I mean,
No, but it's not like an integral part of destroying a bad guy's scheme by chucking wine bottles and corks and forks at it.
But the Doctor is always MacGyvering some random piece of equipment from stuff he can find that just happens.
At
to be
least
in the
something electrical, at least something technological, not a wine bottle with some forks and corks stuck in it.
So you're sad because this story wasn't fixed with magical use of the sonic screwdriver. You want more of that to be used, do you?
I would have accepted the sonic screwdriver far more than I accepted this shit.
Doctor Who is constantly fixing plot problems by switching a switch, or as we say, the sonic screwdriver, flipping a button,
Reverse
or
the polarity.
some sort of MacGuffin somewhere. So why not this? And I think using these sort of items, these household items, and I think there's something to be said about this is a weird and ancient power that is steeped in sort of mysticism and myth and legend and things like that. And it is, it's magic to the people of Atlantis. So perhaps you can block it with, it's the form of metal they use in the form of glass. I don't know, things like that.
Can we analyse the line where he says that this is what they used to make in school, which would infer that in Gallifreyan schools there's a load of pisshead teachers giving out wine bottles to students and just saying, "On you go, make this. We'll block some time vortexes." I mean, we all had that teacher in school that was the pisshead, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, after we all had that teacher, and then I grew up, and my friends of mine became teachers, or I met teachers, and I discovered they were all pissheads.
Yep.
Well, there you go. I had a craft and design teacher who got absolutely sloshed every lunchtime, and then went and operated saw machines in the afternoon. Reeking a whiskey, slowly feeding wood into this grinder.
Good old Johnny Two Fingers.
Yep.
Now, I do have to add to the wine bottle thing. There is some form of technology at the top of it. So this goes back to me sort of, I think he's utilising the forks to transmit whatever in there out of it. The wine bottle and the cork is so it rotates. It needs to rotate somehow. So it's not just a bunch of odds and sods. I'm looking at
You're not telling me that they just ad-libbed that scene, though. They must have just ad-libbed that scene. It must have been, what have we got hanging around in this set? Oh, we've got an empty wine bottle, a few forks, a couple of corks, a roll of sticky tape, and it ends up looking like some kind of weird art installation. Not something that, I could buy it if it was something electrical, if it was something that actually transmitted something, then that would be fine, but it ain't.
The whole story is based on a crystal, which is indestructible, which you can use to control the monster from space and time that eats time.
Fine.
But the Doctor using forks as an antenna on a wine bottle apparatus is one.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not gonna suddenly go up against like some godlike entity and go, oh yeah, by the way, here's an empty bottle of 19 crimes I've just finished. It's garbage.
Again, have
it's
you ever
thrown
tried
together garbage. It's literally in a script sense and story sense and in an actual sort of acting sense, thrown together garbage.
It's got a spacey thing on top that's doing the heavy lifting.
It's not a space. It's just rubbish. It's just ridiculously stupid.
Well, I mean, you can't argue with science.
You are defending
sometimes.
For that scene alone, for looking at that and going, is this actually happening? This is guilty. If nothing else, this scene makes it guilty.
Nah, okay. It isn't great science, but it's Doctor Who. It's never great science.
No,
it isn't great. I think we can end the sentence there.
I think Doctor Who is definitely more science fantasy than science fiction. I know a lot of people don't like to agree with that, and I think this is just part of it. That he cobbles together this thing which does have space stuff on top, out of odds and sods around it.
As you describe it, as you describe it as space stuff.
Yeah, space stuff.
Yeah,
space
stuff
stuff
from space.
Wow.
What do you want to describe it as?
Okay,
And it's also something, more importantly, that the kids, when Tom Tit Mania was over, they could also make one of these at home from their parents' discarded wine
everyone
bottles.
was in their kitchen cupboards, Tom titting away.
You must have.
After an empty wine bottle, getting mum and dad's empty wine bottle and having a good old Tom Tit time with it.
You must have seen the clip on the DVD of the Blue Peter episode that went out a fortnight after that with Peter Purvis building one as a make. And of course, these days, it's all made by alcoholics.
No.
It swept the nation. It was quite the craze.
It was, yeah, indeed.
It's the magic of Doctor Who.
What's ever happened to the magic of Doctor Who?
It died right around the time most people turned 12, I think.
Jesus, on that cheerful note, shall we go to... Keep it light, Dylan. Okay, we've only got a few minutes left on the poll for tonight's episode, so shall we have one more point for the defence before we go to summings up?
Well, if Dylan's got any left, I'll let him go since he's the guest.
I mean, I'd love... there are many, but I'd love to really talk about John Pertwee here, because John Pertwee is not a doctor that it's not an era or a doctor that I revisit a lot. And when I do, it's usually something like the Time Monster or the Mutants that perhaps, you're less familiar with. But I think he's absolutely fantastic here. I think he owns the role, and he just gets some lovely moments, doesn't he? There's that the doctor. There's actually that scene that's quite famous towards the end where he's talking about his mentor and stuff like that, and he talks about his past, and he talks about, quite honestly, for Doctor Who, especially of this era, he talks about it was a terrible day. I was really depressed, and this guy helped me out, and I think that's quite an honest moment that you don't often get in Doctor Who. So honest and such a sort of iconic moment that the Daisiest Daisy line is obviously got used recently again in Jodie Whittaker's final episode. I think Pertwee and Manning have an amazing relationship, and he just sits. He looks so at home, doesn't he, John Pertwee, in this environment? Because we talk about this era, him being trapped on Earth. But so many times he's fighting aliens and surrounded by soldiers and things like that. So to see him with actual people who are sort of contemporary to the time just feels wonderful, and a rare chance to see this Doctor in the past, because Doctor Who hasn't been into Earth's past since the Abominable Snowmen before this. And the only other time we get it in the Pertwee era is when we get the Time Warrior a few seasons later. So it's lovely to sort of see him in all these different places and be really at the top of his game and at the top of his powers as the Doctor.
Okay. Cam, do you want to come back on that as a prosecution?
Well, if we're going to talk about John Pertwee and Katie Manning having good chemistry, then I would argue that's pretty much with all stories, isn't it? Really, not just this one individually. It just doesn't suddenly click into place with this one. We're going back to this whole, isn't this story fun thing? And that's what this is. And it's, in a sense, that it's just an absolute load of cobbled together nonsense that doesn't sit right at all. It never managed to settle on a theme. It never managed to settle on a central core to it. Nothing about this story works and hangs together. No amount of performance of Roger Delgado, we've already said, or John Pertwee would change that. That the actual core foundation of this is faulty.
I mean, I think what this story actually does, what the script actually does, is it utilizes the characters to the best of their abilities. But also, we've had a season of the Master trying to take over the world, and this ups the level a bit and ups the ante. This is the Master trying to take mastery over time itself. It's the master chasing a god, and it suddenly it ups the stakes for everybody involved. And I think that, there's a reason why Benton is more involved and the Brig has so much to do, and that's because the script knows and cares about these characters and knows what they're capable of and gives them loads of stuff to chew on.
But there's an immense amount of filler in this. It's just, I've got here down here, there's so much filler in this. On 2 occasions during the story, the Doctor literally says, all we can do is wait. And God's sakes, they actually do. There seems to be 3 scenes in when the Doctor and the Master are just shouting at each other over the phone. At one point, the Brigand unit, as we've said, are frozen out of the story because there's little else for them to do. There's ideas here, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't sit right. This, as I say, my biggest problem with this story is there's a great story waiting in the middle of it. That's 1 episode of 6. The Atlantis stuff is fine. I would take that all day. But it takes ages to get there, and then it's over in a flash. This didn't, and again, we can talk about the length of stories in Doctor Who at this time, but this, of all the ones we've done so far for Series 9, this did not need to be 6 parts at all. This would have been a nice 3 or 4 part if you'd have set it all in Atlantis. You built the set for it anyway, so why not just use the fucking thing?
I mean, I don't want to get into the whole sort of 6-parters versus 4-parters and what have you, because ultimately those
Please
things,
do.
all of those do have filler. But you sat through the fucking Sea Devils the other week, which is just dicking around in boats for 6 episodes while someone...
Where were you a month ago? What were you doing? You can't have been that busy. Surely you've won an Emmy.
Yeah, I Doctor Who of this period does do filler, but it does it well, I think. And, you're looking at something that's meant to be viewed 25 minutes a week, not all in one go. And I tell you what, I sat down to watch The Time Monster, perhaps thinking I might do an episode or 2 a night. And I did 4 episodes and then another 2 the next night. The only reason I stopped was because it was 1 a.m. and it was time to go to bed. But I had a fantastic time hurtling through those episodes, and there may be filler in there because it's a 6-parter, but it's enjoyable filler that makes me laugh and keeps me entertained.
Dylan, I am happy for you that you are such an easily pleased man.
No comment.
It must be nice to have such low bar.
I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'm used to low bars and then being lowered and lowered and lowered.
Good God. No, I'm just firing through my points here before we get the poll closes. As a story, this is both plodding and absolutely all over the place. It has no strong spine running up and down it, preferring instead to create situations for the characters before resolving them in the most off-the-top-of-the-head way possible. Doctor needs to get somewhere fast. Bessie has an overdrive. Master needs to convince someone. Hypnosis. Master needs to have a revolution in Atlantis. That's off-screen. It is, by the way, the quickest revolution I've ever seen on television. The scene in Atlantis where it's just suddenly kind of going, oh yeah, by the way, we've had a revolution, and now I'm the king.
Streamlined.
Yeah,
you really enjoyed the scenes in Atlantis, and now you're slagging them off. Which is it?
Well, no, I'm enjoying the scenes in Atlantis, but I would have preferred one to actually show a revolution that they talk so highly about. It doesn't even happen. Suddenly they just walk through, and the Master's on the throne room going, now, by the way, that revolution we talked about, it happened in the last 5 minutes. All done. Easy. Job done. Whew. It's great.
Classic,
not a problem at all.
Doctor Who does that all the time. We'll just show the huge armies of aliens, Atlanteans, space fleets of spaceships. I was watching the planet the other day. One of the cliffhangers is literally 20 spaceships that are moving across like a map. That's the money to do. That's the money to build spaceships. You've got to imagine that. It encourages you, use your imagination. That's what it was all about. And you can't slag off Doctor Who for the master using his. This is he's literally a master of hypnosis. That's his MO.
Dylan went a bit Tomb of the Cybermen there, didn't he?
I did. You're very crackly at the moment. It's a hell of an impression.
I'm getting angry.
Am I still crackly?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's strange. Just came on all of a sudden.
It's suddenly happened all of a sudden.
Let's see what happens.
Oh, that sounded a bit
It's a little
clearer.
bit clearer. Oh,
Maybe I shouldn't say anything.
No, that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah.
that's a little bit okay.
We're able to
It's
hear
just
you a bit
not-
clearer now.
I think I was getting really passionate and excited about the
You
Time
were.
Monster.
I
The
got
cyber
that
side of him
impression.
came through.
Yeah, I've got to be cyberized there, which is a bit weird. I'm like,
He just
shit.
bypassed the emotional inhibitor inside him and just boom, off he went. That's it.
Yeah,
I
the
think
emotional
basically I was-
Cyberman. Coming soon to Big Finish.
Oh, they've done that, surely.
That must have done.
They must have done. Yeah, I've burnt through all my points. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. In that case, then, shall we go to summings up? Wrap up this particular trial before we close the vote entirely. Let Cameron go first with his summing up for the prosecution of the Time
Yeah,
Monster.
Sure. Quite possibly the worst thing Time Monster has against it is that it conceals a decent idea about the Master and the Doctor cutting about Atlantis and buries it under a pile of half ideas, boring scenes, and misogyny. Time Monster is an absolute trudge to sit through, as there's a general feeling that this is the end of season and everyone would quite like to go on holiday now, thank you very much. From the terrible scene-stealing forks to spinning wine bottles and everything having to say Tom Tit with some level of seriousness, it's clear the script was rotten and the rest followed suit. It's Who at its most wandering and listless, and if any non-Who fan watched it with you, they'd wonder what fucking meds you were on.
So you like it then, yeah?
No.
No.
No. Usually in the Polis box, by default, most of Doctor Who I like, it might shock you to learn. And sometimes if I have to prosecute, I have to kind of really struggle. Like, I think we've already established Sea Devils I really struggle to prosecute because I really fucking love Sea Devils, right? This, not so much of a problem. Because I kind of didn't like this.
Is this a classic series version of Journey's End for you?
Yeah.
Not quite as bad.
Not quite as bad. But
getting
yeah. It has some level of... no, it's not Journey's End, put it that way.
Okay, all right. Just trying to gauge the level here.
No, not Journey's End.
Let's have the summing up for the defence. Dave, Dylan, do you want to do one apiece or?
Well, I'll go first, and then Dylan can catch up any spots that I've missed.
Sure. On you go then, Dave.
Cameron, to an extent, is right. This is silly and fun. There's no big deep meaning here. There's no overarching stories. You said it was silly, and you have said bits of it were fun. Yeah, there's nothing deep about this. It's a fun story. And if non-Doctor Who fans watch it with you, they'll go, what the fuck meds are you on? And can we watch another one? Because it's weird and it's fun and it's interesting. The special effects on it, ropey as fuck, but different and new and interesting. The story, yeah, there's flaws in it, of course there is. And it's a 6-part, of course it's got filler in it as well. But the time causality loop where they go back and they stop the Master doing things, which leads to things happening now. So if they hadn't done it, would any of it worked? Traditional causality loop. It's proper sci-fi. And yet they involve fantasy and history. It's just fun. None of it makes sense. None of it follows, none of it tracks. By the end, none of it matters. But when you strip it back, you've got great acting by pretty much everyone in it. We've discussed everyone in it being roughly at the top of their game, doing really good versions of the character they play. You've got interesting bits of the story. Yes, the Tom Tit is a stupid name, but you can guarantee it would have made people talk. Which, in the days before social media, you needed people to actually talk about things. And Tom Tit would have done that. Is it the greatest in this series? Possibly not. It depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for light-hearted, fun, good acting, interesting enough story with a bit of historical in it, that's what this is. It's not earth-shattering, it's not the greatest ever, but it's enjoyable and watchable. It's got Darth Vader in it, for God's sakes. So it's not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, in my opinion.
Okay then. And finally, Dylan, do you want to give us your summing up for the defence of the Time Monster, please?
I shall do. I realised that my opening gambit at the beginning was probably what I should have used to close here. But so much like the story itself, time's all wibbly wobbly, and I put that at the beginning. But I mean, I can just echo Dave's points that it is a fun Doctor Who adventure story that gives us so much to chew on, and there's lots of exciting ideas in here that are executed to the best they possibly can do in the 70s, I think, especially when the money's running out at the end of the season. But it's also a progressive story. We talked earlier about Kronos being potentially the first trans character. It also sets in motion the idea that the Doctor can be a woman, because we get to hear the inside conscious of the Doctor, and one of the voices in there is definitely a woman. We've talked a lot about the cast and how they're on fine form. We talked about Darth Vader. We didn't even mention Ingrid Pitt. We've made no tit jokes about her because there's so much exciting stuff to talk about that we didn't even have to mention her tits. And she's great in it, and so are her tits. And that is my closing argument.
Tits for the win.
As I said, rife with misogyny.
Appreciating someone's breasts is not the same as misogyny. She gives a great performance, and she's got some great assets.
Well, there's something to put out on Twitter and sit back and let them have some fun with, isn't it? Dylan says. Right.
Cracking rack.
That's very strong summings up on both sides. The vote is now closed, so you can now no longer vote on whether the Time Monster is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. We're going to take another short break. We're going to count up the votes, and when we come back, we will reveal the result and find out whether the Time Monster is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. In the meantime, dear viewer, enjoy a little light music.
There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you, and these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before, I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before, I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. My life, I love you more. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall, some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more.
There you go. The silky sounds of Sergeant Benton. Put your phone down, Dylan. Pay attention, man.
I was
serious.
I was just buying the album actually. After hearing that song again, I was like, I need to get the full Ballads of Sergeant Benton album.
It gets you right there, doesn't it? And then right there.
Yes.
Okay, after such tuneful crooning, shall we get to the business end of this episode of the Polis Box? Shall we find out the results of the trial of the Time Monster?
Yeah, I suppose about.
Let's do it. Try not to sound too excited about the prospect, Cam. Here we go. It's time then to find out if the Time Monster is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. Here are the results. Well, would you look at the disgust on Cameron's face? 59% of you have said that the Time Monster is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, therefore it stays in the unofficial canon. And, as an end result, the series ends 4-1 to Dave. Congratulations, Dave, well done.
As we usually say, it's not a surprise that it turns out Doctor Who fans quite like Doctor
Who. Weird that.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming.
No.
So there we go, a 4-1 Series 1 to Dave. So, as a result of that, it means that Dave gets to select as his winner's privilege which series of Doctor Who we do in our next series in a few weeks' time. Dave has free reign, he can pick anything he wants, apart from Series 9 of Doctor Who, obviously, because we've covered that. So Dave, winner's privilege, where are we going next?
Well, obviously we've been discussing this in the side chats, probably for months now, what we'd choose next. And there's a few guidelines that I've come up with for myself.
Okay. None
of the new stuff, because, you know, there's nothing new happening in Doctor Who anytime soon, so there's no point starting that yet. Nothing big coming up, nothing to discuss, so we'll go classic again.
Nah.
So when it comes to classic, it's Cameron and I both despise, to an extent, telesnaps. So nothing with too much, or in fact any missing if we can.
Okay, so nothing from the 60s. Okay.
Yep. Which kind of cuts it down to a few. Now in that there's only one Doctor we've not done any of, and that's McCoy. So I think since we've finally got the choice, we should break our duck, lose the virginity, and do a McCoy. I don't know which series we should do.
Well, if you're not sure what series to do, we can let the viewers decide. So we've decided that Sylvester McCoy will be our next Doctor. What we're going to do is we're going to put a poll up on Twitter. You get to decide whether in the next series of the Polis Box we put on trial Series 24, Series 25 or Series 26. So if you need a bit of a reminder, Series 24 is Time in the Rani, Paradise Towers, Delta and the Bannerman and Dragonfire. 25 is Remembrance of the Daleks, Silver Nemesis, Happiness Patrol and Greatest Show in the Galaxy, and Series 26 is Battlefield, Ghostlight, Curse of Fenric and Survival. So the power will be in your hands, viewers and listeners. You get to decide which series of Doctor Who we put on trial next. I will be putting the poll up on Twitter immediately after this episode goes out. We're going to run it till Monday morning and we'll reveal the results on Twitter of what we're doing next. But one way or another, we're going to have our first McCoy. We're going to pop our McCoy cherry live on the internet.
It's what the people paid to see.
I really hope it's season 24.
Do you know what? I've been sounding people out as guests for next series, and I've mentioned that the possibility that it might be McCoy, and there's a lot of people that would like it to be series 24. Don't let that influence your vote if you're watching this, but I'm just saying it's not as, doesn't seem to be as hated as most people would expect. So
how are we deciding who's prosecuting, who's defending?
Well, I mean, we can leave that up to Dave as well. I mean, probably the fair thing to do would be to swap around and Dave prosecutes and you defend, or we could flip a coin. Have it to chance. What do you think?
You could toss for it.
Oh, that's okay, cameras off. Come on. Whoever finishes first. Or Dylan, as our guest, could decide.
Interesting.
I'm
trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out who the biggest, who's the biggest McCoy fan is. I mean, if you strayed away from McCoy because you're not fans of it for the moment.
We were picking randomly, and it just randomly never came
yes,
up.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, so we never got a McCoy out of that box at all. That's the only Doctor we've
you've
never
done
covered.
loads of episodes.
Yeah, we have.
And McCoy never came up.
Never got McCoy.
That really surprises me that you never got a 7.
Yeah,
okay.
we were a bit like, but that's the way it went.
Okay.
Them damn envelopes flapping away, causing havoc.
The three of us are probably, probably this for you as well, Dylan, that we're children of the McCoy years. We're probably, he's our Doctor, the one we have the earliest memories of. So, we've grown up with McCoy to a certain extent. So, What do you think then? Would you let Dylan decide who prosecutes and defends next?
Let's go with Dylan.
Yep.
Okay, Dylan, you have the power.
Great.
Who do you want to defend or prosecute whatever McCoy series we do next?
I think Dave should prosecute.
Okay, so we're going to turn about.
Defend.
Okay then. All right. So that's in the books then. Dylan has decided that Dave will prosecute next series. Callum would defend it. Like I say, we're going to put the poll up on Twitter after this episode goes out. You've got a few days to decide which series we do next. We'll reveal the results on Twitter in the next few days. We will be back on the 2nd of November because we're going to have a few weeks break to get ready for next series. So you'll not see our faces on here for about 3 weeks or so. Yeah. Dylan, thanks very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yes,
it's been an absolute hoot. I've loved being here and talking about the Time Monster, which isn't actually that good, is it?
You turned
great to talk about it.
heel turn already.
While we've got you here, have you got anything you want to plug, anything you're involved in you want to let our viewers know about?
I do, on the off chance that any of the viewers don't listen to the other Doctor Who podcasts in our sort of circle, I do a podcast called Doctor Who Too Hot for TV, where we look at anything that isn't Doctor Who, the TV show. So it's books, comics, audios. I mean, we get very tenuous sometimes. I've got an episode coming up about the Weetabix cards that were done in the 70s because somebody really wanted to talk about them and it was fascinating. We've done the Doctor Who Give a Show projector before. So yeah, just anything that's not the TV show. We've done unmade scripts, all that jazz. So yeah, you can find that where you find all your podcasts. I'm also a member of the Strangers in Space podcast, and I pop up quite regularly on Hamster with a Blunt Penknife with Joe Ford, talking about various things, but I mainly seem to go on and do the Jodie Whittaker episodes because I'm one of the small amount of Doctor Who fans who's very positive about that era.
I think you're in good company here.
Yeah.
I think we all fall in that same boat. Okay, well, we'll post various links to the things you're involved in the Twitter, so viewers can go and check those out. So there we go then. Series 9 of Doctor Who is ultimately been found not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, apart from the mutants. That's been punted into the wilderness. Next time, McCoy will come before the courtroom. Not even Clown Court this time. Noel Edmonds will be nowhere near it. We will be back on the 2nd of November. Before we go, we're going to leave you with a little special end of series treat, a little behind the scenes clip of our lunch with the YouTube commissioning editor. And we sat down and discussed our plans for the future. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks' time. Good night.
Good night, folks.
Good night.
Yes. Have I got a second series?
There's so many opportunities.
Actually, let me rephrase that. Can I... No, actually, I'll just repeat the question. Have I got a second series?
No.
Oh, thank you. All I want to know.
Tony!
Oh, Peter, hello, how are you?
Fine, fine.
Alan, this is Peter Linehan. He's revamping our current affairs output.
We haven't met, but I liked your chat show.
Well, thank you very much.
Has he given you another series?
No, he won't give me one.
Give him another series, you swine.
Yeah, give me another series, you shit.